This story. Hey everyone, it's pretty late right now, so bear with me if I make any mistakes or start ranting. I'm currently in a messed up situation. I'm a 19-year-old female with an older sister, 23 years old, and she's always been the golden child for our parents. Just to be upfront, I don't think my parents even wanted me, and they've consistently made me feel ignored and unwanted. I've always been the less important kid, and they actively discouraged me from doing anything that could overshadow my sister. Despite the fact that my sister is pretty ordinary, let's be blunt, she's just not as good as me in any way. They've always hyped her up and supported her. I excelled in academics, sports, and basically outshone her in every area. I admit, I'm really competitive and I wanted the attention and affection my parents showered on her. So, I kept trying to outdo her at everything, but it only made them dislike me more, labeling me as an attention seeker. By the time I hit high school, I realized nothing I did would make them prefer me over my sister. I stopped trying to impress them but continued to outperform my sister academically and in sports. The only difference was, I was doing it for myself and my future, not for my parents. I think my sister was also jealous of me, enjoying the attention our parents gave her. Naturally, she couldn't stand it when she realized only our parents played favorites. Everyone else, except them, could see clearly who the better sibling was. I made an effort to be friends with my sister, but she was always too full of herself to be nice. By the time it was time for me to go to college, I wasn't on good terms with anyone in my family, and honestly, we were all relieved to get rid of each other. I started college 2 years ago, majoring in business because I've always seen myself as an entrepreneur. Fortunately, I don't have to pay the full tuition, I got a scholarship, and the rest is covered by my best friend's dad. My best friend is fully aware of my family situation, and she knows that my parents wouldn't give me any money if it meant I could do better than my sister. So, her dad stepped up and paid for my spot, sparing me the need to ask my parents for money or take out a student loan. With 60% of my tuition already waived due to the scholarship, it's not a substantial amount for him to cover, but I'm incredibly grateful. I do plan on returning the money when I have the means, but for now, he's handling my education along with his own daughters. They're a wealthy family, unlike mine, so it's not a burden for them. I'm fortunate that they're so generous, a stark contrast to my own parents. My parents believe I'm studying for free, as I told them 100% of my tuition would be waived. They were relieved, thinking they wouldn't have to spend a dime on my education and could continue spoiling their eldest daughter. In addition to my part-time job as a tutor to cover other expenses, I managed to get by. Living frugally is a necessity, but since my accommodation and food are taken care of by the college as I live on campus, I don't have much to worry about. Unfortunately, my family isn't financially stable. My parents mortgaged all their jewelry and my grandpa's house 4 years ago to fund their textile business. While it provided some relief, they're still not doing as well as they'd like. They don't let me have a say or advise them, so I can't help them. I used to be paranoid about their debts until I read that, as I'm not a co-signer, I won't inherit them. Since then, I've stopped caring because they don't want my help, and I won't waste my time assisting people who don't respect me or my business acumen. Yesterday, I received a call from my parents in the afternoon, revealing that my sister was in trouble, and so were they. They needed my help to bail them out of this predicament. Apparently, my parents mortgaged the house they currently live in almost a year ago to fund my sister's bakery. The thing is, my sister has no clue how to run a business, having never gone to college, and she isn't even that great at baking. I have no idea why they thought this was a good idea. They never bothered telling me about the loan, and I never cared to ask where they got the money to help her start the business. The truth about the mortgage only came out when they told me themselves. Now, they're demanding that I come back and help them handle all their accounts and run their business because my sister had to shut hers down due to not making any money. They want me to work full-time to contribute to the family, bail them out, and join the family business to manage it. They actually expect me to quit college to fulfill these obligations. When I asked them why I should quit college for their sake, They matter-of-factly told me that, as a member of the family, I owe it to them. Apparently, I can't go to college, run the family business, and work a second job all at once. I have to quit one thing, and they think college is the most obvious option, given that it requires me to stay away from home and would be one less obstacle in my way. I was left speechless by how casually they were making such demands, as if sacrificing my future for their poor decisions was a normal expectation. I lost my temper when my dad insisted that my sister needed my help and that if I didn't want to lose my home, I had to come back right away and start working. The audacity of it all got under my skin, and I ended up telling him that I don't owe them anything. What happens to him, my mom, or my sister is none of my business. They never treated me like family and always made me feel bad about myself. Now, when they need my help, they suddenly want to play the happy family card. When my dad argued that I should at least come back for the sake of the place I'd called home for the past 20 years, I flat out told him that the house was never my home. It was nothing more than a place for me. After saying this, I disconnected the call and blocked my family on every platform. I used to keep in touch with them, hoping that someday they'd change. But it's become crystal clear that such a day will never come. I'm tired of waiting for them to become decent people. I spent the entire day in a horrible mood, skipping classes and avoiding everyone because I'm overwhelmed with a mix of emotions. I'm furious that my parents not only wanted, but also expected me to give up my future and dreams just because my sister messed up big time, and so did they. At the same time, I strangely feel guilty for turning my back on them, knowing I have the capability to help. I can't pinpoint where this guilt is coming from, and I don't know how to deal with it. It's been a day, and I thought I'd start feeling better, but I still feel like crap. The last time I saw my family was last Christmas, and we had a decent time. I didn't enjoy myself, but they weren't picking on me, and my sister was civil. Now, I can't help but think it was all an act because they knew they'd need my help at some point. I feel weird and horrible about the whole situation. I haven't spoken to anyone about it, not even my best friend, because I don't know where to start. I guess the reason I'm here is that I could really use some reassurance that I'm not in the wrong for abandoning my family when they needed help after mistreating me my entire life. Update 1. Hey everyone. I want to express my gratitude to all of you who validated my feelings and reassured me that I wasn't being selfish in my decision. I've been reflecting a lot on the situation, and I don't understand why my parents would even think I'd comply with their request after all they've put me through. The part I regret the most right now is skipping a whole day of classes because of this nonsense. Just goes to show how much it affected me. It's been 3 days since then, and I haven't heard from them. I don't know what they're up to. And frankly, I don't care as long as they don't bother me again. I already have enough on my plate to worry about. I shared the situation with my best friend, and she's incredibly sweet. She offered to help me out immediately, but I assured her that I was all right and had everything under control. What I needed from her was emotional support and reassurance that everything would be okay because my mental health took a hit after that day. It's not my family that worries me. It's myself. I might not have a home to go back to once I'm out of college, and even though my friends would be willing to help, I don't want to constantly rely on them. Now, I feel the pressure to work twice as hard to graduate at the top of my class and secure a well-paying job as soon as I'm out of college. I can't afford to slack off right now. Anxiety about the future has been driving me nuts, and I can't seem to shake it off, even though I know I can't control what's going to happen. All I can do is give my best. I just wish my family wasn't so awful like this. Update 2. So, my family unexpectedly showed up at my college today, and I was shocked by their audacity after what they had done. They claimed they wanted to take me out for lunch and discuss certain things. Not wanting to create a scene in front of my friends, I reluctantly agreed, but insisted on choosing the place. I picked a diner I frequented, where the owners knew me well and could help if things went awry. Spotting the owner behind the counter when I arrived, I felt reassured and even waved at him. Once seated, they suggested I order some food, but I declined. I didn't feel like eating with them, and I'd rather go hungry. Despite my refusal, they insisted, so I settled for a lemonade, refusing any food. They, on the other hand, ordered 4 meals for themselves. As we waited for the food, they got to the purpose of their visit, discussing the financial crisis they were facing, something I was already aware of. Once again, they urged me to reconsider their earlier request for me to quit college and help with their loans. I had to reiterate that I wasn't taking that responsibility, as they hadn't consulted or included me in the discussions before making those decisions. My sister got agitated and accused me of being jealous. A laughable claim considering she had nothing that could make me feel jealous. If anything, she had always been the insecure one because of me, not the other way around. Some of you mentioned that I sounded bitter and resentful, and I appreciate the feedback. In my earlier post, I touched upon my feelings about my sister, and I want to delve into that before continuing. I acknowledge that I did sound bitter and resentful, and that's because I've always felt overshadowed by my sister, who seemed to receive preferential treatment without doing anything to deserve it. Despite my efforts, I was consistently pushed aside because of her. I believe anyone in my position would have felt similarly. Moving on, during our conversation, my mother managed to quiet my sister, and then the emotional manipulation began. My parents started talking about how the only reason I was able to attend college was because they provided me with an education and ensured I had everything necessary to secure a spot in a reputable institution. However, I argued that this was the bare minimum expected when bringing a child into the world, and their actions were legally mandated. I made it clear that I wasn't doing anything for them, and that was my final decision. I suggested they go back home and leave me alone, warning them that if they returned, I would report them to security and child protective services. My dad seemed on the verge of yelling at me, but my mom intervened. She shot me a nasty and disgusted look, stating that they were ashamed of me and that I was nothing but a disappointment. Without waiting for the food they'd ordered, they left, and they didn't even bother paying for it. When I questioned them about it, my sister, with a smug smile, mentioned that I could foot the bill since I chose this place. This added insult to injury, leaving me extremely upset. Despite my attempts to hold it together over the past few days, I couldn't anymore. My parents and sister proved to be the worst, going to great lengths to make me feel terrible about myself. I was devastated, and I reluctantly admit that my mom's words cut deep. They labeled me a disappointment simply because I refused to be trampled over by them. I attempted to suppress my emotions, but the weight became too much to bear. After my parents left, I had a breakdown right there in the diner. It wasn't just silent tears, it was a full-blown emotional unraveling. The scene was undoubtedly embarrassing, but I couldn't control myself as the tears flowed, accompanied by hiccups. Within seconds, the entire diner seemed to be staring at me. In my attempt to leave, the owner's wife, who knew me, intervened. She came to my booth, grabbed my arm, and guided me behind the counter. I allowed her to lead me, feeling utterly lost. The owner and his wife sat with me, providing comfort and ensuring I could compose myself. Despite my disruptive breakdown in their diner, they were remarkably understanding and supportive. Other waiters took over, and I couldn't be more grateful for their kindness. When they inquired about what went wrong, I tried to articulate, but the overwhelming emotions made it difficult to speak. I shared the condensed version, explaining that my parents and I had a heated argument, resulting in them leaving without paying. While they must have sensed there was more to the story, they didn't press the issue, recognizing the fragile state I was in. The owner then offered to pack all the food they had prepared, assuring me I didn't need to pay for it. I fully intend to reimburse them for the substantial amount of food, but their willingness not to burden me with it at that moment was truly appreciated. They even arranged for a cab to take me back to college, covering the cost from their own pockets. It's the kindness and warmth shown by others in my life that have prevented me from completely losing my sanity. Once back in my dorm room, I immediately called my best friend and asked her to connect me with a lawyer as soon as possible. I explained the events of the day, expressing my fear that if my parents were willing to travel to my college to harass me, there was no telling what further shenanigans they might attempt. Since SPID had already refused to assist them, They had nothing to lose and would likely intensify their efforts to bother me and get under my skin. Taking proactive measures became essential, and involving my best friend in the process seemed like the right course of action. When I shared the events of the day with my best friend, she immediately assured me that she, along with her father and their family lawyer, would visit me as soon as possible. Her comforting words alleviated my worries, and for the first time, I felt a sense of relief knowing she would support me. Despite my immense guilt for frequently leaning on her and her dad, I had nowhere else to turn. Fortunately, I've been blessed with an incredible friend and her father who are more than willing to step up in ways my own father never would. Anticipating their visit tomorrow brings me a sense of calm, as my best friend has been a constant source of comfort since kindergarten. She understands me better than anyone, particularly my struggles with anxiety. She serves as my personal anxiety pill, and I cherish her deeply. Her father mirrors her kindness and is the epitome of what a father should be. I often find myself considering them more like family than my own parents and sister have ever been. Even the couple who owns the diner, having known me for just a year, display more kindness than my blood relatives. At this point, I can't help but harbor strong feelings of disdain for my family. It's not just about labeling them as greedy or mean. Their actions reflect a cruelty that disregards the impact on others, as long as they benefit. I find myself wishing for their suffering, believing it's their accumulated bad karma finally catching up to them. After what they put me through today, my resentment has reached a point where I wish nothing but the worst for them. Today's events were unforgivable, and I can't fathom being tied to a family that exhibits such callous behavior. Update 3. Hey everyone. Life's been a bit hectic on my end with work and various other commitments, so I haven't been as active here. However, I wanted to express my heartfelt gratitude for all the kind words and support you've showered upon me. It means a lot. The good news is that I'm in a much better place now. I've taken a significant step towards my well-being by starting therapy to address the emotional challenges I've been facing. It dawned on me that what I've been going through isn't normal, and just because it's been a part of my life for so long doesn't make it okay. Recognizing this was a crucial realization for me. One of the aspects that had been weighing heavily on my mind was the uncertainty about my future. I was concerned that if things continued this way, it could adversely impact my health. Fortunately, my best friend and her dad stepped in and insisted that I seek professional help. They played a pivotal role in connecting me with a therapist, and for that, I am truly grateful. In addition to seeking therapy, there have been further positive developments. 3 weeks ago, during their visit, my best friend and her dad extended their support by putting me in touch with their lawyer. Together, we're taking legal action and filing a restraining order against those who have caused me harm. Around 3 weeks ago, my world was in disarray. My parents had recently paid me a visit, leaving me in shambles emotionally. However, a ray of hope and support arrived in the form of my best friend and her dad, who visited me the day after my parents left. In my state of emotional turmoil, their presence proved to be a much-needed anchor. Her dad, in particular, played a significant role in consoling me. He reassured me that as long as they were by my side, there was nothing to worry about. In a heartwarming gesture, he went on to express that I was as good as his own daughter. Knowing that my best friend had lost her mother shortly after birth, it touched me deeply when they conveyed that if she were to have a sister, I would be the person they'd hoped she'd be. This affirmation alleviated much of the guilt that had been weighing on me. Their support extended beyond mere words. They made it clear that I wasn't a burden to them and that standing by me was a choice they willingly embraced. During their visit, I had the opportunity to speak with their lawyer, setting in motion the legal actions we would take in the days to come. The next day brought a change in dynamics. Unfortunately, her dad and the lawyer had work commitments that required their attention, but my best friend stayed with me for a few days. In that time, we managed to inject some joy and laughter into the heaviness that had been lingering. For a brief period, I could escape the shadows of my family issues and revel in the carefree moments we shared. It was my best friend who, with unwavering determination, insisted that I seek professional help. Recognizing the importance of therapy, She took the initiative to find therapists near me and encouraged me to book my first session. Since then, I've been attending 2 therapy sessions every week. While the journey to complete healing is still ahead of me, this marks a significant and hopeful beginning. As for my family, they haven't attempted to reach out since our last encounter. However, we're taking precautions and proceeding with filing a restraining order. Trust in them has eroded, and I no longer feel safe in their presence. The legal measures are a necessary step to ensure my well-being and peace of mind. In the midst of this challenging chapter, I find myself incredibly grateful for the support system I have. The kindness of my best friend and her father has been a lifeline, offering solace and a sense of belonging. With a cautious eye on the future, I remain hopeful that things will improve. Stay tuned for more updates and stories on our channel as I navigate through this journey of healing and self-discovery.